Hello, everyone. We're back. We're back for another episode of the Bharat Army podcast in the scorching heat of London. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that the weather would have been like this? So today's episode, we are discussing who we think should be the players that we are going to send to the T20 World Cup, which will hopefully, fingers crossed, be happening later on this year. We'll have to obviously still wait and see with that, but we will get into the nitty-gritty of who we think should be going. I am, of course, your host, Ashish Gadvi, and let's see who else we've got on the podcast this week. We've got the returning Amish from Hounslow, sunny Hounslow over there. How's it going, Amish?
Not bad, Ash. Not bad, mate. Not bad.
Good, good, good. We've also got Akshay Lumba, another regular. How's it going?
Yeah, really good, really good. Looking forward to this discussion. I think it's a really interesting topic. I've been waiting for this one for my return to the podcast.
Oh, he's been waiting. He's been waiting. Let's see what he's got to say then. And we've got the return of one of the original members of the Bharat Army podcast, Abhishek. How are you doing?
All good, Ashish. Looking forward to discussing the topic as Akshay said. And happy to be back on the podcast.
Back. He's back. The Dark Knight returns. And we've also got Sanika from Mumbai as well joining us on the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, great. I'm doing absolutely wonderful. And speaking of wonderful, let's start talking about India at the T20 World Cup that's coming up. And let's just get straight into it, shall we? Who we think should be going there. So we are going to go by batting order and get into the nitty-gritty now. So the openers who we think are going to do the job for us at the T20 World Cup. Now, when you've got an opening partnership that is as cemented as Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma, you wouldn't really want to mess around with that, I don't think. But T20 World Cup, who knows? Abhishek, let's start with you, seeing as you're back on the podcast after a while. Who would you have opening?
Well, I think, like you just mentioned, Rohit Sharma, he speaks for himself in terms of his record, and no one's going to argue with him opening the batting. I think that's not even up for debate. But one thing I would debate is his opening partner, which, as you said, he's got an established partnership with Shikhar Dhawan going in limited overs cricket. Very, very good partnership it's been over the last few years and taken us through major tournaments quite successfully. But I think now is the time where I think we need to start looking at a bit of a transition for a new opening partner for Rohit Sharma in the long term. And I'm going to make the case for KL Rahul to open the innings in T20. I think Dhawan's record in T20 cricket isn't actually all that great, to be honest. I think he averages 28 with a sort of 120 odd strike rate. And his recent performances in the T20s after the World Cup, he's not really delivered. He's only passed a score of 40 twice, I think, in his last 11 T20s. Whereas KL Rahul, in comparison, averages 46 in T20 internationals against Dhawan's 28. So he's got significantly better average and a significantly better strike rate as well, which is in the 140s. And, he's in great form. Like his last 11 T20 internationals, I think he's scored over 48 times. And so that shows you he's in great touch as well. And his overall record is a lot better than Dhawan's. We saw how well he performed in the series against New Zealand at the start of the year. Those are going to be similar pitches and conditions in Australia. He's proved he can do it there. I don't see any reason why he can't do it in Australia as well. So that's the reason why I go with KL Rahul to open with the Rohit.
Amish, KL Rahul, the opener. Now, Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma have pretty much been opening the batting since before you were born. What do you think about KL Rahul being the man to break up that partnership?
So, firstly, Ash, I know I've got a baby face, but it's been a while, mate. It's been a while. So KL Rahul, right? He's done fantastic of recent times, and he's definitely in the squad. His position is up for debate. Shikhar Dhawan, big ICC player tournament. Yes, 2019, as like you said, he did have a rough year, but he didn't do too bad towards the end of the year. After the World Cup, a few 40 scores, late 30s, and even in 2020, he played 2 games, and I don't think he did bad. I think he got an odd 50. And is it worth us breaking that partnership? I would say, depending on the responsibility we're giving KL Rahul, only then would I put him into open. If we're going to ask him to do more keeping, etc., then no, I probably wouldn't have KL Rahul opening, and I would have Shikhar Dhawan to add a bit of depth to our batting lineup.
But can I just jump in there? Why does KL Rahul wicket keeping have anything to do with where he bats? First of all, we're playing 20 over cricket. It's not like he'll be keeping for a whole day and then being asked to put his pads on to bat. He's keeping for 20 overs, which is minimal time, and then he's going to open the batting again, only batting for a maximum of 20 overs. And just against New Zealand, the recent series in January, he was asked to keep, and we won 5-0 in the series. He scored bags of runs, and looking at the recent series, I think I'm completely on the same page as Abhishek in this one. I think KL is the guy to open the innings, and I actually think the team management agree with us, because if you look at the last 3 T20 series, you had versus West Indies, where KL was opening with Rohit Sharma. Both did really, really well. And then there was 3 T20s against Sri Lanka, where Rohit Sharma was rested, and it was sort of like a battle between Shikhar Dhawan and KL. They were both opening together. And to be fair, both of them did pretty well. And in the most recent one, it was again KL and Rohit Sharma. So the trends of the opening partners, to me, seem like the management are going with the KL Rohit Sharma opening combo. And I think KL's natural position is to open. And he's been a beast in that position in the IPL. He's been brilliant for India in T20 internationals. So why change it to bring in an aging Shikhar Dhawan, albeit a brilliant player, done really, really well for India over the years. But I think now is the time to move on, give KL his chance to shine at the top of the order.
So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying KL Rahul should not open. You're saying, why does it not impact him if he's going to why can't he open? Now, do you classify KL Rahul as a specialist wicketkeeper, yes or no?
No, he's not a specialist wicketkeeper. Of course not.
Okay.
He's a part-time wicketkeeper.
Sure. So we've had a few series of recent times. I wouldn't say against the strongest oppositions, where KL Rahul has done a fantastic job keeping, and I think a couple of games he captained as well as opened the batting and so forth. Are you prepared? Well, you're saying it's okay to give him that responsibility for a World Cup. This is not a small bilateral series, etc., etc. This is a big tournament. For us to go in with a non-specialist keeper, that's what you're saying, right? Unless you're going to tell me you've got.
Well, no, I think we're talking about the opening at the moment. I think the keeping role we'll discuss later on. But as an opener, I think you've got to play players in the position that they're best at. And I don't think dropping him down the order, I don't think he's going to be too tired to open if he keeps. I think you've got to play the players that are suited best to their positions.
Okay, so
I mean, I do kind of see what you're saying though, because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Quinton de Kock opens the batting for South Africa, and he's a wicketkeeper. Right. Now, I'm not saying that there's a comparison with the gloves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do understand that. I do understand that point. But you know, food for thought. Sanika, what do you think about who should be opening?
According to me, I will pick KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma, because we have seen KL Rahul batting in IPL also and in other recent tours. I guess the opening pair should be KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma, like others said. So I agree with them. And
I mean, you're from Mumbai, so you're not going to say no to Rohit Sharma being opening and the batting at any point in any time. To be fair, I mean, KL Rahul, he has been batting pretty well at the top of the order. So it's not the end of the world to say, you know, should he open or should he be at number 4?
I think now also I understand what Amish is saying about you know, giving players, you know, too much responsibility if he's going to be keeping and stuff. But I know we'll come on to it later. But I think I'm side with Akshay on the fact that it's not a test match. He's not going to be. It's not like he's going to be asking to be wicket keeping for days on end and then going out to bat after being on the field after a long 2 days. You know, keeping. I think if it's best for the side, whether he keeps or whether he doesn't keep, you've got to consider where is his best place to bat. And I think his recent form suggests that's at the top of the innings, regardless of whether he keeps.
Yes, indeed. Cool. Yes, indeed, yeah.
For the purpose of this discussion, let's go with KL Rahul Rohit Sharma. Let's go with that.
Oh, there you go. You won him over. That's the sign of a good debate. So, I mean, once we once we kind of go down the batting order, I think there's no point debating the number 3 position. We obviously know who's going to be in that position. It's our current captain, Virat Kohli. We don't need to discuss anything about his batting. For anyone who's got Sky Sports or anybody who could watch any old cricket back, they were showing the T20 World Cup in 2016, the match against Australia, India, Australia, and the Super 10. I mean, that was just a Superman innings, his 82 in that. I would actually argue and say it's the greatest T20 innings that an Indian player has played in an international. It's absolutely stunning. Watch it if you can. But the one thing I want to actually have a very quick answer from each of you guys on is that we've obviously got Virat Kohli at number 3. Rohit Sharma is going to be opening the batting. Who would you want to captain this team? Now, like I said, I want a very quick answer from you guys because this is a debate which can go on and on and on. Amish, let's start with you. Rohit or Virat, who would you have captain the team?
Let's say stick with Kohli on the assumption that the World Cup is coming up this year. His batting has been fantastic while he has been captain, and I don't think we're in a position to. I don't want to influence his batting on the pitch, and therefore he's not done bad. I think if he has support from a few other experienced members within the team, that will definitely help him a lot. And I fully recognise everything Rohit Sharma has done with Mumbai Indians, and even when he's led India. But you don't want to walk into a tournament with a drastic change like that. You want to build that up and get someone ready.
Abhishek, captaincy, where would you go?
I agree on that. I'd stick with Kohli. I just think, like Amish said, if you are going to make a change, it's the wrong time completely to do it right now. And I just think this is Kohli's team, to be honest. I know Rohit Sharma's done well in IPL as captain. He's not captain for India loads. Okay, he has a little bit. But I just don't think that IPL captaincy is necessarily going to transition to international cricket. I think this is Virat's team. It's got his stamp on it. I just think it will affect the team dynamic way too much if it's taken away from him. So Kohli for me.
Akshay?
Yeah, well, I'm in the same boat. And I know with lots of India fans, they are after Rohit Sharma to be the captain of India with the white ball. And I'm I think all three of us are one of the few people that are sticking with Virat Kohli, not just for the T20 World Cup, but beyond there as well. For 2 reasons for me. One of them is, he hasn't won any silverware for India as captain yet, but he's actually one of the most successful one-day captains. He's got a win percentage of 75%, which, people remember the semi-final and the final knockouts, but, on the day, sometimes it's down to pot luck. But if you look at his captaincy stint as a whole within ODI cricket, he's been really, really successful. He was the fastest captain from subcontinent to 50 victories as captain. And he's just built a brilliant sort of young team that fields really, really well, have really high standards in terms of fitness. And we've not seen an India team like this before Virat Kohli. Even in the MS Dhoni period, even though he won all that he won, the team was never been so good fitness-wise in the field than it is now. So I think he's sort of got a project going on, the Vision 2023, and for me, I want to stick with him until that point, and he's got my backing.
Sanika, 3 people have gone for Virat Kohli here. Come on, this is Rohit Sharma. This is Mumbai's boy here. Who would you have as the captain?
Yeah, I will actually have Rohit Sharma because we have seen him during IPL also, the way he captains, like in the pressure situation also, he manages it very well. And during Leaders Trophy and Asia Cup also we have seen him. So I will go with Rohit Sharma. Actually, I want Dhoni to pick up this World Cup. And,
oh God! All right.
It potentially will be his last match, ICC tournament maybe. So I want Dhoni, but if in between Rohit and Virat, I will pick Rohit.
So I think what would be a really good exercise for our listeners at home is to turn the Bharat Army podcast into a drinking game. So whenever somebody mentions MS Dhoni being either the captain or still being in the team, you can have a little swig or something.
Just on that point, while Ravi Shastri is still in charge, and I think his contract is till 2021, it wouldn't make sense to change or break that relationship he has with Kohli while he's still in place. So unless other bigger plans come in, the timing just doesn't make sense right now.
No, and to be honest, we can speculate as much as we want as fans, but I think that partnership of Ravi Shastri and Virat Kohli isn't going anywhere for a while in terms of running the Indian team. Now, the position I want to get into depth in is this number 4 position, which is the number that seems to haunt us in most major tournaments. Akshay, do you want to kick us off on the number 4 position on who you think is, well, some of the names that you think are going to that position?
Yeah, well, for me, there's only one name. I think the discussion is around lower middle order, 5, 6, etc. For me, there's only one number 4. We've struggled with that position for many, many years. We've finally got a solution, and in my opinion, a solution that works. So I think we should not touch it. And his name is Shreyas Iyer. He's a brilliant player. When he's played in the IPL, when he's played for India, he's really taken that position by the scruff of the neck. He's a very well balanced cricketer. He knows when to defend. He knows when to attack. He's not just one-dimensional with the power hitting. He can rotate the strike. He's going to be a brilliant cricketer for India, I think, in all 3 formats eventually. But for T20 in particular, I think that's his spot, and no one's coming near.
Abhishek, is there actually any argument against that? Because from whichever direction I kind of look at it, unless you're going to have KL Rahul back in that position, but Shreyas Iyer is absolute class.
Yeah, I've got to agree there, to be honest. I think, like Akshay said, we've struggled to cement a regular number 4, and in limited overs cricket, we've been messing around with that position for far too long. We've, chopped and changed between, Raidu, Dinesh Karthik, and a few other players in that position recently. But to me, it's got to be Shreyas Iyer. I know he's actually still pretty young in his international career, so I don't think looking too much into his record is fair, to be honest. I just think sometimes you've got to go with a little bit of gut instinct, and the gut instinct on this player, which I know a lot of us share, is that he's class. Like he's done well whenever he's been called upon, and it's just he's got this aura about him which you can tell he's responsible and has got a good temperament. And I think that's something which we need in the number 4 position. In T20s and in 50 over cricket, I think that position has got to go to Shreyas Iyer, and it's one for the future that we've got to give him a chance and stick with him. So I'd go with him as well, number 4.
Amish, now the way that you had your team set up, you actually had Shikhar Dhawan to open the batting. So would you have KL Rahul at that 4 position? Are you sacrificing Shreyas Iyer in that position? What would you do?
Cool. So more so middle order. But if we need to fluctuate between a few positions, that's fine. But Shreyas Iyer would definitely be in my team. And that was just a challenge in terms of if Shikhar Dhawan should be in. I'm happy with KL Rahul, don't get me wrong. But I think Shreyas Iyer deserves to be in. He's touchwood, he sold our number 4 spot, as Abs and Akshay has said. He's definitely India's future, and he's given us a lot of confidence of a number 4 batsman. So whether it was KL or Shreyas Iyer, I'm fine with either. But in that middle order, I would either way have Shreyas Iyer.
Sanika, what do you think?
Shreyas Iyer, no doubt. The way he bats, if you want to play hit hard, you want to take runs, then he will be at it. He will do it. He will be he plays like Dhoni in a sense. If you want to play, I can say if you want to hit, then he will hit. If you don't want to hit at that moment, then he will not hit. So I guess he is perfect.
Yeah, he does seem like he's got a good head on his shoulders. So I think it's fair to say that the top 4 position for us is pretty cemented, whereas before it was top 3, that's it. We know exactly what it's going to be. But I'd say with Shreyas Iyer in the team now, the top 4 is pretty much cemented. Let's get down and dirty now, shall we? 5, 6, 7. Let's get into who some of the names in that position should be. Abhishek, let's start with you. 5, 6, 7. What names do you see around those positions?
Well, I mean, for me, I've got my 5, 6, and 7, I think, pretty cemented. Number 5, I'm going to go with Manish Pandey. which I don't know if that might be a surprise to some people. It might not be, but I think this guy's been messed around a little bit in international cricket. He's been dropped and, chopped and changed, brought in, brought out, asked to bat different places. But to me, what we've been screaming out for, again, it sort of stems following from what we're looking for in Shreyas Iyer and our middle order. Our middle order has been soft in limited overs cricket. And, in the big tournaments, when it gets to crunch time, we always seem to stumble in those pressure situations. And I think Manish Pandey is someone who brings a good balance of, he offers solid batting depth and he also offers good temperament as well. Now, if you look into his T20 record in internationals, is actually pretty outstanding. He averages 47, across 38 games, which is, averaging close to 50 in T20 cricket internationally over that period is pretty damn good. And, I think there is going to be other names in the discussion, which, I'll let other people, pick on them before I come back to why I think they shouldn't be in. But I think that's probably why I put Pandya at number 5. I just think he's solid. He's great in the field, and he just adds a little bit of, proper batting at number 5. Number 6, I'd go with Hardik Pandya, assuming he's all fit and raring to go, which hopefully, he should be. He's had a bit of a layoff, but I think he gives immense balance to the side. He's crucial to our team. I still think his bowling can use some improvement, but I think that'll come with time. I think with the bat, he's shown, immense improvement over the last few years. Very destructive. He can be at number 6, and like I said, he can chip in with a few overs as well. And number 7 for me, I'd go with Ravindra Jadeja. I just think he is, apart from Kohli and Sharma and Bumrah, I think those 3 are probably your first 3 names in the team sheet. I think Jadeja is the next one who is next on the team sheet because he's got everything. He can pick up wickets. He's fantastic in the field, one of the best fielders in the world, I'd say. And he's always handy with the bat at number 7. You can consider him a proper batsman now. He's graduated to that level where in all 3 departments, in their own right, he's strong in all 3. So for me, that's my 5, 6, and 7. I think it, offers you, solid batting, agility, all bring something in the field. And your number 6 and 7 can bring something to the party with the ball as well. So for me, that's my 5, 6, and 7.
I mean, I've got to be honest, that looks solid on paper. It looks like a great 3 names on paper. But for those who know my opinions on one of those players, Hardik Pandya in particular, I don't particularly rate him very much. I think you're being very kind to him to say that his bowling can be improved on. I actually think he's an absolute liability with the ball. So what I would say to you is that why pick Hardik Pandya in that position when you could have more of a specialist batsman in that position instead?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't pick. I wouldn't really know who else to pick. I think with the bat alone, even if he doesn't bowl, which if he doesn't bowl, we're still fine because we've got Jadeja who can bowl 4 overs. And then you've got your 4 bowlers after that. I still think even as a batsman, I think he merits his place. I think I was very much someone who, at the start of his career, I was very much on your side of the fence in that I wasn't sure about him, suspect, bowls half trackers. And you're right, his bowling is still, like I said before, got a lot to be improved on. But I just still think as an all-round player, looking at what other options we have in the squad, as a number 6, I think he's the best option, if I'm being honest. I'd put him ahead of Rishabh Pant. You might notice I don't have a wicketkeeper in my 11, and that's because I reckon KL Rahul should take the gloves. And our side is still balanced, and I don't think it's sacrificing much by asking him to do that. I just think another person I can think, which I'm sure someone might mention, is Rishabh Pant, but I just think Pant, he brings an element of naivety to the situation. And he can be an asset to us in the future. He's going to be, but I just think he's got to learn, and he's been known for playing silly shots and giving his wicket away. And he only averages 20 in T20 international cricket, and his form has been pretty poor. So I'm sticking my guns with that number 5, 6, and 7.
Well, yeah, no Rishabh Pant in your team, but the other name which was not in your lineup there was a certain MS Dhoni. Amish, let's go over to you, shall we? Your middle order. Tell me how it shapes up.
So my middle order, my team consists of the same 3 names that I've said. However, the reason why I wouldn't have Pandya at 6 is too high. Abs is having Pandya at 6. Pandya at 6 and Jadeja at 7 is way too high. That means I assume you're going with 6 bowlers, including Hardik Pandya, and you've got Jadeja as a spinner, 1 other spinner, which means you'd have 3 other fast bowlers, Bumrah being one of them, right? Your tail is way too. Your number 11 starts from number 8, and that is, you can't have that, right? You said that it gives you a good balance in terms of the side. I think it actually, having Pandya that high and Jadeja at number 7 weakens the balance, because every team has a number 6, number 7. That's not a bonus anymore. That's become the norm. You need to have your batting needs to bat deep. And I'm not saying we rely on those people who are coming at 7, 8, 9, but you want to know that you've got the armor to come in and hit the shot. So Pandya and Jadeja, they're really fantastic with the bat. I'm really can't hit me.
I think if you're talking about one-day cricket, I think you've got a bit more of a point there, but you've got to obviously wait and see who are picking number 8 first. But I don't think 6 and 7 is too high for those two in T20 cricket. You've got 20 overs, and I just think I'm picking my side based on, I want my number 4, 5, 6, and 7 to be proper batsmen, rather than bits and pieces like we've had in the past, or players like Bunt, etc. Then you need your number 8. But my plan, hopefully, is that we're not going to need our number 8 to contribute. And if you're relying on number 8 to get you out of trouble, then I think you're asking.
Agreed. However, I don't think that I wouldn't say Pandya is a ready-made batsman. I don't think I'm a big fan of him, and Ash, I know you said that his bowling is another topic of discussion. However, since during that World Cup, I think his bowling was impressive. He exceeded my expectations. I had very little faith in his bowling during the World Cup, but on many games he broke partnerships and he brought something different. Before, he used to always bowl back of the length, and I think he changed something up, but I think it worked. So I've grown in reliance of him as a bowler, and therefore I think he could potentially be our 5th bowler, right? But using him as a solid batsman, like you're saying, I don't think India are there yet, and therefore I would have my number 6 slot is empty, and therefore let me just make some room for the great man MS Dhoni. Not necessarily. Look, let's be honest. We don't know Dhoni's situation. We don't know where the World Cup is going. But if he makes himself available, because of too many question marks around the team, I would play Dhoni at number 6, and then have Pandya and Jadeja at 7 and 8. I feel like that gives me a lot more comfort, and in terms of depth in our batting, and still batsmen. Now I take on the point that what this loses is a bowler from. It means I'm relying on Hardik Pandya to give me 4 overs, and that I fully appreciate. But this is where India are really missing out on having fast bowlers who can bat. We don't have that, and therefore, if we have 3 bowlers, apart from Bhuvi, who's you could argue in contention, we don't have other bowlers who are going to add to our lineup. And I think if we're 4 down in 12 overs, that means you're relying on Pandya, and I think that's way too early for him to come in.
So I think the room might be a little bit split down the middle here, because obviously Amish has gone for Dhoni in his lineup. Sanika, you were talking about MS Dhoni potentially being your captain, so I'm guessing that he gets into your middle order.
Yeah, so mine will be Hardik Pandya, then Dhoni, and then Krunal Pandya. So I guess Hardik is, you cannot replace Hardik. So like the way he bats, the way he bowls, he's actually a good fielder as well. So he is perfect for that spot. Dhoni, so no doubt. And if Dhoni is not available, then I will pick Dinesh Karthik, because Dinesh Karthik is also similar to Dhoni from, if you say, like I said for Shreyas Iyer, Karthik also like plays according to the situation. So I guess Karthik will be good fit if Dhoni is not available. And also then I will pick Krunal Pandya because he is also like the best all-rounder we have got right now.
So some new names in the mix there. Dinesh Karthik and Krunal Pandya. Go ahead, Amish.
Sanika, does that mean you're not picking Jadeja? Or you would?
No, I will pick Jadeja after Krunal Pandya.
Okay, lots of
Because then
all-rounders in the mix.
Okay. For me with the middle order, now I think Abhishek picked Manish Pandey. Yeah, he's got a good T20I record, but for me in T20, that's a safe option, picking Manish Pandey, a proper batsman in at number 5, not a power hitter. Amish has gone even safer by picking the extra batsman and removing the bowler. For me, I think you win T20 matches by having a solid top 4 and packing your middle order with power hitters. So at number 5, I would actually have Hardik Pandya there. I know you yourself and Amish have your doubts, but for me, he's an absolute gun batsman in T20. Complete power hitter. You need people that can get that ball over the rope without it bouncing. And Hardik Pandya.
At number 5, Akshay, what are you doing
at number 5, hear me out. You've got to hear me out. Hardik Pandya at 5, complete match winner. Does it for Mumbai Indians every single year, and has done it for India. At number 6, I would actually include Rishabh Pant. I want another big hitter, power hitter. You look at the best IPL teams; their middle order is packed with power hitters who can clear the rope. And I think with such a solid top 4 who will consume up most of the overs, we hope we would then need our 5, 6, 7 to be able to clear the rope. And I'm not convinced that Manish Pandey can turn it on from 0 to 100 after 2 or 3 balls. Whereas I know Hardik Pandya can, I know Rishabh Pant can, and they've got the X factor and they suit the T20 game. My answer would be completely different for any other format, but in T20 cricket, these two are our biggest hitters and our best hitters. So they would be in for me in that mid order. It's a risky tactic, but if you want to win, fortune favours the brave, and if you want to go from getting sort of par scores to going above par, you need quick runs in that sort of last 4 or 5 overs. And Hardik Pandya and Rishabh Pant are likely to get that. Equally likely not to get that as well. But it's a risk that I would take.
Actually, what would you do? Yeah, if India are 60 for 4, would you rather have Pandya come in or would you have Pandey come in?
In that situation, of course.
After 12 overs.
Yeah, of course you'd want Pandey in that situation, but we can't build our team around that situation. You build your middle order in T20 in the assumption that they'll be coming in later on in the game. In a freak situation where your top order completely fails, of course, you'd rather have that person that can solidify the innings. But in reality, in T20, if you look at the averages over T20 cricket, looking at the IPL, for example, where they pack out the middle order of power hitters, essentially that's what you need in the middle order to really go from being an average team to a great team. You look at the Andre Russells of the world who come in sort of 5 or 6 and absolutely annihilate bowling to get to huge totals. We need that to win games, because other countries have it.
I don't disagree with your. I don't disagree with actually your theory there about power hitters in the middle order, but where I'm coming from is I just think if Kohli at number 3, Shreyas Iyer at number 4, Hardik Pandya at number 5, and Jadeja at number 7, if that's not enough power in your middle order, then I think what can you do, to be honest? Because I think that's already outstanding. I know in 5 and 6, I've gone for Pandey and Hardik, and you've gone for Pant and Hardik. But the reason why I've gone for Pandey over Pant is because I don't think Pant has actually proven that he can bring what you're saying he will be bringing to the 11. He's averaging only 20 in T20 cricket at a strike rate of 120. Pandey's got a better strike rate than that. So it's just proven. It's proven that Pandey actually has been more successfully explosive than Pant, who actually, if you're going to play that way, like a Virender Sehwag, you need to come off more often than not to warrant your place in the side.
Yeah, but
that record's simply not doing so for me.
But with Pandey, you're basing his stats on his international career, and as you said, his international career has been up and down. if you look at his stats during IPL, where he's consistently played for his franchise over 10 years, he's got similar stats. You know, his strike rate is 120. He averages in the 20s as well. It's not fantastic stats. He's done well for India in T20 internationals, but those matches have been a lot fewer in frequency than his IPL. So I'm not entirely convinced just by looking at Manish Pandey's stats. He's a great batsman, a great fielder, but I'm not sure how I want to balance my team. He's the right pick.
Okay, so actually I take that on board. However, don't you want to have the option? At least with abs in my batting lineups, you can fluctuate between, you can move people around. If it's like 17, 18 overs gone, of course, send Hardik Pandya in, let him have fun, etc., etc. Whereas what you're saying, you're relying on, in 2020s, you need to have that level of flexibility. Whereas what you've said is you're relying on your top four, and that means your lower order they've only got one game.
I don't think they only have one game. I think they don't just try and hit every ball out the park. You know, they are cricketers. They do play cricket.
How many times have you got annoyed with Rishabh Pant for coming in and trying to hit a six when there's no reason to do so?
Because in those formats where I get annoyed, it's not the right way to play. In T20, I would never slate him for trying to hit a six, because that's how you play in T20. You swing your bat and you clear the rope. And I would go for Jadeja as well. Shoe in for me. Great fielder, great bowler, great batsman. The only concern I have with Jadeja is if I was picking one other spinner, because it's going to be in Australia, it would be Chahal, and both of them are turning the ball away from the right-hander. So we're lacking on variance there a bit. Obviously, one's a right-hander, one's a left-hander, but the ball's spinning the same way. Whereas the old Kuldeep and Chahal partnership, they're spinning the ball in different ways.
Well, I mean, you've brought us on to the next stage of this discussion, which is the bowlers, and this is where I think that Team India have actually been experimenting quite a lot in T20s in the past few series that they've played in. Akshay, why don't we just stick with you? Why don't you tell us about who's in your bowling lineup?
Yeah, well, you say that it's really, really tough to pick because India have experimented so much. You know, I've got a long list of names that India have trialed with their bowling. It's clear that T20 is the format that India want to experiment, especially with the bowlers. You know, within ODI cricket, you've got a very set structure of bowlers, whereas in T20, if you look at the spinners, it's not just the traditional Kulcha relationship of Kuldeep and Chahal, but you've got guys like Washington Sundar, who was trialled to add depth to our batting. He's a good bowler as well, but the boy can bat as well. Rahul Chahar, really good spinner as well. Shreyas Gopal is an option for me. Had a really strong IPL over the last couple of years. And of course, Jadeja. But for me, being in Australia, you want a maximum of two spinners. So it would be Jadeja and Chahal, who is, in my opinion, our best spin bowler in white ball cricket. He's proved it in IPL. He's proved it for India in T20 internationals and one day internationals. And going on to the seam bowlers, again, there's a plethora of bowlers they've tried. You know, you've got the standard bowlers like Bumrah and Shami, who are always there at the top of the list. You know, Bhuvi's also to be considered, but he is injury prone. You know, he's definitely not the bowler he once was before all of his injuries, although he still has something to add. But what excites me are two names, and that is Saini and Deepak Chahar. I just think in Australia, with bouncy pitches, raw pace like Saini can offer will really cause destruction. I just think if you're using those conditions, let's fully utilize them and get a raw express pace. And Deepak Chahar, ever since he's put on the blue shirt, he's been really, really good. He swings the ball, you know, almost Praveen Kumar-esque, but with a bit more pace. And he's been a solid player in IPL as well. But if I was picking my three seam bowlers, I would go for Bumrah, I'd go for Shami, and I would go for Saini. Although I would keep Deepak Chahar in my squad if it was overcast conditions, for example. I'd pick Deepak Chahar, but otherwise my three would be Saini, Bumrah, and Shami.
So, Sanika, you mentioned a little bit earlier that you were going to have Jadeja as your number 8. So that then bleeds into your bowlers. So how does your bowling lineup shape up?
So I will pick Bumrah, Shami and Bhuvi as my bowlers, and Jadeja will be the all-rounder. Bumrah is because Australia pitches, in Australia we need a pacer, so Bumrah will be the fit for it. And then I will take Shami and Bhuvi, both of them, because when there is crucial match, if you want, because actually Bhuvi has less economy, so he does not give much runs. So I will pick Bhuvi for that. And if you want to save wickets, if you want to take more wickets, then Shami will be in that position. So Shami will do that work. So I guess Bhuvi and Shami and Bumrah will be my bowlers.
Cool. So you wouldn't go with some of the new names like Akshay did with Saini and Chahar and those guys?
No, I will pick this because we need pacers mainly, and this will be like amazing for the team and well fit in the team.
And Abhishek, I suppose like that lineup of those three fast bowlers, that's kind of like your classic Team India bowling lineup, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think if those three seamers took to the field that Sanika mentioned, I mean, I personally wouldn't have too much of a problem with it at all. I think for my selection, it would be maybe slightly different, although I can definitely see the merits in that argument. It's similar to Akshay's lineup, but with one difference. I think if I hadn't said before, by the way, the reason I've got no keeper in my middle order is because I'd give the glove to KL. I don't know if I'd mentioned that, but number 8, Jadeja at 7, and number 8. You've got your primary spinner spot, which for me I'd go for Yuzi Chahal. I think ahead of Kuldeep Yadav. I just think he's just been a little bit more impressive and showed more control, over the last couple of years. And I think he's a frontline spinner in this team, so I'd pick him as the frontline spinner, Jadeja as your second spinner, and then you've got 3 seamers. Now, for me, Shami and Bumrah, for reasons discussed and known to all India fans, they're bankers. They don't really require much debate, really. We all know how much Shami's come on in the last few years in his bowling, and now he's spearheaded the attack fantastically well. He's a wicket taker, and he's been brilliant. And Bumrah, probably one of the best fast bowlers we've ever had. No debate about that. So for the third and final bowling spot for the quick bowler, I think is a toss-up between Deepak Chahar and Bhuvaneshwar for me. I know Akshay mentioned Saini, and I think I'd definitely have him in my 15 in the squad, but I just think we'd use our variation slightly differently. He's saying he might look to bring in Deepak Chahar for a bit of variation. I think I would do it the other way and look to bring in Saini for the variation. I just think maybe he's a little bit too experienced. He's not played very many games at all, and it might be a little bit of pressure going into the World Cup. I think he's played 5 one-days, 10 T20s, and that's it. And I just think he's got the X factor on pace, but I just don't think he offers as much control as the other two, and he can be a little bit more expensive. I think his economy is around half a run and over more expensive than Chahar. Bhuvi's an experienced quality bowler, and again, I'd defo have him involved in the squad, but I think I'm edging towards Deepak Chahar. He's done well since he's come in. He's looked fresh. He's economical. He takes early wickets quickly. More often than not, he's always picking up a top order batsman of the opposition. And I just think, he's a little bit more sort of a fresher version of Bhuvaneshwar at the moment, who's been a bit hampered by injuries. Even though his T20 record is still very good, for those reasons, I'd go with, Yuzi Chahal at 8, and then 3 seamers: Deepak Chahar, Shami, and Bumrah.
Cool. Amish, what's your bowling lineup look like? Talk to me.
So Bumrah and Chahal in, bearing in mind that I went with an extra batsman on the assumption Dhoni is in. Still a big question mark there, but I think there's a toss-up between Shami. I'm a big fan of Shami, but I've only got one slot to play with, so I've got a few people in contention: Shami, Chahar, Saini, and Bhuvi. Now, I think Bhuvi does give you that something different, and yes, he's not the same bowler, but in Australian conditions, I don't know. I think it could be a good thing to pull out your back pocket, having someone with Bhuvi's characteristics. Chahar definitely picks up key wickets. He's done that for in his short span of his international career, and I would rotate between those 3 bowlers, if I'm honest with you. And Saini, I can't forget Saini, right? Oh, we're in a good position with a few different options.
There is indeed quite a few options, actually. And I guess that one of the main reasons why we have these options is because Team India, like I said before, have actually tried out a lot of these bowlers in the past few series. Now, that gives us a little bit of room to play with some other names that are just going to be on the flight going over to the tournament. So I'm just going to open up the floor really to whoever wants to just give me some more names of people who they think may not get into the opening 11, but should definitely be on the flight heading over.
Well, I think one name that no one's mentioned, and I don't believe he should be on the flight, but he's played a lot of cricket for India in T20, so I'm surprised no one's mentioned him, is Shivam Dube. And I know it's because Hardik Pandya wasn't available to be picked, but he is a good backup for Pandya in an all-rounder position. He's proven with the bat he can hit the ball. He's struggled a bit with the bowling, but I do think as a fast bowling all-rounder, he would be a decent option to be a backup because he's played so much T20 cricket for India over the past 12 months or so. Yes, he has.
I mean, I see some of your points, but for me personally, I don't think, like you said, I don't think he gets on the plane. Worthy mention, but for me, I just don't think he's good enough. I think he's a little bit too inexperienced, and also maybe just not good enough in either batting or bowling department to warrant a place. I mean, I haven't got Pant in my 11, but I certainly would take him as that X factor option. Obviously, backup keeper is needed in the squad of 15 as well. I'd take Kuldeep as my backup spinner, and Navdeep Saini as my backup bowler. But I think besides that, we're all sort of veering towards the sort of same page on who we think's in and around the mix to get on the plane in the squad.
Amish, what do you think? Who else is going on the flight?
So Pant wasn't in my 11 on the assumption Dhoni is in. So, and yeah, Pant has some form of X factor. How successful it is and etc. I'm not sure. But yeah, I would take him. On Shivam Dube, he's in an ideal situation. Yes, he would be in because he gives us that further all-round us, like, gives us a bit more versatility in our team. But no, I don't think he's done good enough to be in contention. His batting has not been great, although he's gone in at some unfortunate positions, and therefore it's not easy to field an innings, etc. So yeah, Shivam Dube is not on my list. I don't think if you rely on the batting that we've got and not taking like Shikhar Dhawan, etc., I don't think you guys have enough strength in your batting department. And for the bowlers, yeah, I've mentioned I would definitely take the likes of Saini, Chahar, Bhuvi, rotate between them if I need to, depending on the pitch. They'd make my 15-man squad.
I've got to be honest. There's one thing I'm quite surprised about with you three, the three boys on the podcast, that none of you have mentioned, and it's the one name that Sanika picked, which you guys didn't, and that's Krunal Pandya. And I just think that he's a bit of a dark horse because he's got a little bit of that Midas touch for Mumbai Indians. I know, like, he's not had like the most success in an India shirt, but would you not just take him on the flight just because he's got that little bit of a wiliness about him?
I mean, I don't think he's a bad selection, to be honest with you. I think he's on the fringes for me, definitely. I think I'd put him ahead in the pecking order. I'll put him ahead of Shivam Dube, for example, and I'd put him ahead of Washington Sundar even. I think, like you said, he's been very successful in IPL cricket. He's done well, or he's done okay when he's come in for India. He has something to offer in all three departments. And you can just, I think for me, there's a sense that he's got actually a little bit more quality to his game. I still think Jadeja still offers more than Krunal for them to play sort of in the same team. I think they're two samey, obviously both left arm spinners, both good fielders, both lower order batsmen. But I think he's definitely worthy of mention ahead of some of the other names that gets close to getting in the squad. So I mean, yeah, I think it's a decent mention.
Yeah. I think I agree with you on that, but with only 4 players outside the 11 to pick, he just doesn't get in for me. So for me, it would be Shikhar Dhawan, as a replacement batsman. I would have Manish Pandey again, waiting in the wings, and two bowlers. I would have Deepak Chahar, and I'd probably go for I wouldn't go for Kuldeep Yadav. I'd go for more of a spinner that the world hasn't seen as much of in Rahul Chahar.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. Good pick.
I think if we did have Krunal Pandya, then I think we could stock up on too many spinners. And you're going to Australia, right? And that's not that wouldn't be my surprise package. My surprise package would be another quick bowler who has not been exposed to the world before. If I was to take someone of that caliber, but hence my reason for not taking Krunal Pandya.
Sanika,
Yeah,
I mean, like, I think your lineup that you picked very much looks like the Mumbai Indians, and I suppose like they are the most successful IPL team. But I want you to make the case a little bit for Krunal Pandya, because Krunal and Hardik playing them both together at Mumbai Indians has brought them success.
No, actually, I picked Krunal Pandya because it will be a surprise element. Like he has not made international debut yet. So I guess it will be a surprise element. Like if we have Bumrah playing, the batsman knows like he balls in particular way. But if Krunal is bowling, then it will be like, okay, the batsman will not know how Krunal balls. So I guess it will be better if we have Krunal Pandya. And I have other pacers like Bhuvi, Shami and Bumrah. So one spinner is okay for me. And also he is all-rounder. So he will be like better for fielding as well, for batsman, bowler, everything. So I guess Krunal.
Fair enough, fair enough. Now, there's a few names that I want to run by you guys, because there's some names which have gone, beyond the radar a little bit down here, and I just want to get your take on whether you think that these guys are good enough to actually make it on the flight. First name, Abhishek. I might as well start with you on this one. Prithvi Shaw.
I'm a massive fan of Prithvi Shaw. I think he's literally the future. Him and Shubman Gill, I think he might be another name you're going to mention. They're literally the future of Indian cricket. And I'm sure we'll see, Kohli and Rohit Sharma at the back end of their career transitioning over to those two coming through. And I love him. I love to watch him bat. I selfishly would love to see him play as much as possible because I love to watch him bat. But I just think at the moment, Akshay touched on it before, there's only four spots, reserve spots in the squad of 15, and he's not played much or much cricket at all for India since his suspension. It would be a little bit of a risky pick, and I just think I'd still go Shikhar Dhawan ahead of him at the current point in time. So as much as I love him, I don't think he gets in yet, but he'll be an all-format player for us, should be an all-format player for us, I think, maybe in the next phase after this tournament's over.
Yeah, Akshay, I suppose the other name I was going to mention, as Abhishek said, was Shubman Gill. So Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill, are we still saying it's too early for both of those two in the team?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think it's too early for them as players. I think it's too early because they haven't been introduced enough to Indian cricket, especially Shubman Gill. Prithvi Shaw's played a bit here and there, but Shubman Gill, we've all seen bits and bobs from him, and we're all excited about the future where Shubman Gill will be, one of the main guys in all formats. But he hasn't been exposed enough within Indian cricket, and we're all waiting for that day where he gets a run of games playing for India, and he'll be a shoo-in for every tournament, I hope. But for now, for this tournament, it's too early. For 2023, I'm sure he'll be there.
Amish, I think you mentioned one of the names earlier, which was on my list, which nobody has picked to get into the team, which is Washington Sundar. He's a player that has been, in and out of the T20 team, but hasn't made it onto anyone's list.
Yeah, so I think there's other options that would suit India more, and therefore he's probably not made our list. And I think we've got I think we've got a good enough pack of bowlers to pick from, which unfortunately Sundar doesn't make the pick for this World Cup.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. And I suppose that now, I guess, like, this will be a resounding yes for everyone. But now that the number 4 position has kind of been solved, are we saying that basically the Vijay Shankar experiment is over?
I think so. And when he did play for India, he did a good job. for whatever he was asked to do. He picked up key wickets against Pakistan in the World Cup. So salute to Vijay Shankar, but I think the Indian team is moving on now, and there's a plethora of names. We're so fortunate to be able to discuss things like this where there's so many talented cricketers, and unfortunately some other cricketers are ahead of the pecking order.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the depth of talent that we have, I mean, one of the other names which I had on my list of players that hasn't been mentioned yet was Sanju Samson. But when you look at the list of players that is in there, I mean, where is he possibly going to fit in? But the last player I want to have a quick discussion with you guys about is Kedar Jadhav. Nobody's mentioned him either in the list. So Kedar Jadhav, what do we think about him? Is he not getting into this team?
I think he's done. I think we're done with him now. I think he's been a good servant to limited overs for a short while. He's offered a bit of variety. Good professional. I'm sure he's seems that sort of character. Good bloke. But I just think we've moved on from him as well now. I believe.
Akshay, what do you think?
I think it's an age thing. Yeah, I think it's an age thing. I think I was surprised actually he continued playing cricket for India after the 2019 World Cup in the one-day format. I thought, with his age now, late 30s, that building towards 2023 in a one-day format, we've got to look past him. But India have given him opportunities beyond the World Cup, which has surprised me. But within T20 specifically, very clear we're going for a younger team and giving opportunities to youngsters. And sadly, Kedar Jadhav isn't a youngster anymore, so no, I can't see him featuring for India for too much longer.
Youngster. So I guess the last thing I want to mention to all of you guys is the one elephant in the room, I suppose. We're not a great T20 team, and we haven't been great at the T20 World Cup. Apart from obviously winning the first one, we got to the final once after that, lost pretty badly in that match. All of these players that we've talked about, whatever combination you want to play them in, I suppose my last question to all of you guys, Amish, I'll start with you on this one, is are we actually good enough to win a T20 World Cup in Australia?
Are we good enough? I will never say we're not. You have to go in with the right attitude. But I think there's still some areas of development. I think we're still trying to work out our combination. Clearly by this debate reflects that. There's too many question marks, or we're not so sure, whereas a few years ago, so 2011 as an example, every slot was picked. Maybe there was debate for one who comes in number 7, but otherwise everyone knew who's in, whereas now I don't think we're there, and therefore hence there's still reason for development. But in terms of quality, I think India have a fantastic team, talent, ability. We're just waiting for it to click.
Sanika, what do you think? Do you think this Indian team can actually win a T20 World Cup in Australia?
Yeah, actually it is, like we said, it is Indian team, and we can win. And if we have supporters like Bharat Army with the Indian team, then I guess we can win the T20 World Cup.
Well, I hope, Akshay, and many of our Bharat Army numbers are going to be out there, because Lord knows we'll need, to turn those away stadiums into home stadiums out in Australia to win a World Cup. But what do you think on paper? Do you think that this team can do the business in Australia?
Yeah, well, I think we should. On paper, we got all the talent in the world, plenty of experience playing the IPL. Why I think we may not is because of the uncertainty, like Amish pointed out. We still don't know what our 11 is. I think that's one of the issues we had in 2019. We were chopping and changing too much. It's the exact same thing for this T20 World Cup. So I think the uncertainty is going to be our downfall, but the talent's there. There's arguably too much talent there that we can't even pick a side. So it's not a talent issue. On paper, we can beat anyone on our day. It's just we need to get our 11 and our 15 secured a lot earlier than we currently are.
Abhishek, final word goes to you.
Yeah, I think like Amish touched on with 2011, for example, it was clearly the end of a generation where we'd prepared, built up towards that as sort of the culminating moment. And with this team, you feel we're more still at the start of a new generation, sort of after the last major tournament last year in 2019. There's been a bit of a refresh, and I just think we've got new blood coming in. Like we're discussing the likes of Shreyas Iyer, Deepak Chahar, Rishabh Pant. All these, we've got a lot of young players that are sort of coming into the team, and I just think we are talented enough. We are good enough. We're one of the best T20 teams in the world. So we can win. I think it being in Australia is going to pose a little bit of difficulty in terms of, for conditions, can we adapt to them? That's going to be a question mark. If it was in India, I'd say we are the favourites probably to win it. I think playing in Australia makes it a little bit hard, but that coupled together with the fact that I still think this is a younger T20 team will make it a little bit more difficult. Not to say we can't. We live in hope, and we'll be there or thereabouts as usual.
And with that, our time is up on another edition of the Bharat Army podcast. Thank you so much for everybody for being on the podcast with all the discussions. Let us know what you think at the Bharat Army on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and please like and subscribe to this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It helps us get up the ratings, and who wouldn't want to see an Indian cricket podcast on the top of the list of all of those things? So thank you very much for the discussion. In the meantime, everyone, stay home, stay safe, and we will see you on the next edition. Peace.